Yo, what is up, guys? XRP's at $1.09 right now on CoinMarketCap. Our first tweet comes from Ripple Zitty. Just in, Forbes just put XRP in the top 4 cryptocurrencies worth investing in. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Wow, Senator Kevin Cramer eyes August 7 deadline to pass Clarity Act. Let's watch this video.
A couple of other things that I know you're familiar with.
Well, we thought, it was easy to pass housing, right? I mean, we thought it was easy to pass the Clarity Act. What about the Clarity Act missing its proposed July 4th deadline? It passed the House almost a year ago. It's been held up in the Senate as well, Senator. Is that going to pass soon? We just spoke with the head of the CFTC, and he says we're close to the finish line, but it feels like deja vu again on that.
Well, it does. The Clarity Act is a little, we did pass it out of the committee, as you know, out of the banking committee with Democratic votes. But even the Democrats that voted for it in committee won't vote for it on the floor unless a couple of things are straightened out. One of them being some of the ethics language, which I think, by the way, Democrats are insisting on simply because Donald Trump's the president and because he's successful at business, which is bizarre to me. I mean, if we punished every president who was successful at something and said they can't, they can't legislate, if they're a farmer like Jimmy Carter, they can't sign a farm bill. I mean, Hoover was in the mining business, for crying out loud. There are lots of potential conflicts, but it's all about Donald Trump in this case. I think there are a couple of those things. That's something that the White House is going to have to work out with Democrats, quite honestly. It's between them. And if the CFTC commissioner chair thinks that we're close, it may be something. There may be something that we know that he knows that we don't know. So I'm still hopeful for clarity. The good thing about clarity, Maria, is both sides do want to do it. They do want to have good legislation along, the issue, obviously, of cryptocurrency, and we need to.
Smash that subscribe button and hit that like button if you believe XRP will reach $3 again this year. Our next tweet comes from the Crypto Squire. The Clarity Act will bring you closer to financial freedom much sooner than you imagine. Our next tweet comes from Smoke DQG. Confidential institutional investor presentation. Swift is being upgraded to Ripple. Listen closely. Let's watch this video.
There are many use cases now, very successful investment use cases, and I won't go through these in detail other than to say very briefly that there are good reasons why a lot of value is being captured. So if you look at number one, as I already mentioned, we need infrastructure to allow for the digitalization of finance and commerce, and that's being created by companies with names like Anchorage and Fireblocks and Kraken and so on. And these are digital custodians or wallets or marketplaces, and we're investors in all of those, are ones that we show as examples here. In terms of monies and commodities and assets, the same thing is true. We're taking things like Swift or Visa or MasterCard, and we're upgrading them into digital equivalents, which have names like Ripple or Yellow Card. And we're digitalizing monies like the US dollar into things like Tether and Circle, and we're an investor in Tether and Circle as well. At the commodity level, we can take gold, and you can buy and sell gold physically or through derivatives like ETFs. But we are now tokenizing gold, so you can buy and sell gold over digital wallets and digital infrastructure with things like Pax Gold. So we can do it with traditional commodities. Of course, Bitcoin and Ethereum are new to the world commodities, and we were early investors in them as well. And then you can do it with any other asset. So we can actually take any asset, like the example here, a money market fund from BlackRock. We can tokenize that and make that money market fund called BIDL be available in digital infrastructure anywhere in the world, 24/7. And that's why BlackRock's so excited by the tokenization of other real-world assets.
Our next tweet comes from the Crypto Squire. Forbes ranks XRP number 4. Forbes has ranked XRP as the 4th largest cryptocurrency, another reminder that XRP remains one of the world's leading digital assets. Our next tweet comes from Zave Crypto. Blockchain Association CEO thinks Kalshi has it wrong on Clarity. She's 99% sure a Senate vote happens and pegs passage odds around 60%, well above Kalshi's 40%. Her read, staff/member bans from prediction markets in June may have broken the wisdom of the crowd pricing. Let's watch this video.
40% on Kalshi, and I'm saying vote-wise, I'm like 99% sure we're going to have a vote. Obviously, a lot of crazy stuff could happen and set that back, but I feel very strongly that we're going to have a vote. As far as passage, I've been at about 60%. Some of that's just gut instinct from years of, working in the Senate, being around legislative process, seeing what's happening. The right people are in the room talking about this. So that really does make me feel more confident that we're in the right direction. But whenever people say to me, well, that's not what I'm reading in Polymarket or Kalshi. Well, Congress just about maybe 2 months ago, actually banned all of congressional staff from being on prediction markets. So I actually think there might be a correlation here between when Congress said, staff and members can no longer be on prediction markets, and when the prediction markets started to not track what I think is kind of everybody else's opinion in Washington as to where we are with clarity. So that's another one of those where the prediction markets are great, but there are some things that don't work quite right. And I think they're wrong on this account. I think we're going to have a vote, and I feel like we're going to get there on passage.
Our next tweet comes from Smoke DQG, Ripple plus Finastra, Swift, documented. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie, just in, Coinbase Vice Chair's thoughts on the chances of the Clarity Act passing. We are on the 1 yard line. The momentum is unmistakable. We are very optimistic about it becoming law. Let's watch this video.
What changes do you expect once the Clarity Act becomes law?
Well, first of all, and I like how you phrased it, Maria, when the Clarity Act becomes law. We're on the 1 yard line. The momentum is unmistakable, and we're very optimistic about it becoming law. The changes we're going to see is with the Clarity Act passing, that's going to trigger not just stability and clarity within the space, but a whole suite of rules and regulations to follow. And the reason that's critical is because institutions and individuals, they embrace regulation. They want that certainty. And so those who may have been on the sidelines or those who may have only dipped their toe in the water, we expect all of that participation to accelerate once you have the regulatory scaffolding that we've long sought in this space.
Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie, huge. Forbes has ranked XRP 4th in the category 10 best cryptocurrencies to invest in. Our next tweet comes from Zave Crypto. Franklin Templeton on XRP. We're going to go where the customers are. XRP is well past the journey of even new chains. Ripple's leadership has decades of institutional experience. It's not always just the technology, it's the leadership that determines success. Let's watch this video.
Where does XRP fit into that, and what are you excited about with regards to XRP and institutional adoption and also the chains that come to you, which I'm sure are coming to you weekly at this point?
Well, yeah, because there's a lot of new chains too, and I think one of the things that another trend that you see globally is that very large institutions, kind of whales that are sitting out there in the global economy, are finding, they're understanding this ecosystem a little bit more, and they're trying to migrate people to using, chains or side chains that they have decided to kind of adopt. And so you do see a proliferation of that. And, from Franklin Templeton's perspective, we're going to go where the customers are, quite frankly, right? You're always listening to your customers. And, XRP and the community around XRP is pretty aggressive at, growing and iterating for these purposes, these trillions of dollars purposes that, that we've been speaking about before. And so we have a lot of enthusiasm about working with the team specifically. When our journey started with the global regulators, and, we touch a lot of different global regulators, we did create a kind of a selection criteria that kind of, I hesitate to use the word protocol, but it does become kind of a standard when you're the first one through the door and you're learning up these regulators, quite frankly, toward, not that you're, trying to be a decentralized, permissionless issuer of an asset, but you're actually, you're in a securities business and you're permissioned and you're just trying to use these rails as your underlying, data kind of database operating system by and large. And so there was a number of things that we kind of punched through there with the regulators to put that template in place. But we think that, XRP is,
Real quick, if this helped, press the like button. It tells YouTube to show this to people who want the truth, not hype. And press the subscribe button if you're done being sold the moon. I've already got your next one right here. Go.